Hey, what's going on, guys? Joe here, lifelong Mets fan, but I grew up in Maine, so never really had any Mets fans around me. It was all online and through podcasts like this, so big fan. My question is about what you think Showalter and the Mets should do with Robinson Cano. He's making a ton of money, but there are definitely a lot of other players who I'd like to see play over him, and he's gotten popped for PED usage a couple of times. So interested to hear your thoughts about what the Mets should do with him in the lineup, and also how Showalter and the new coaching staff should treat him in the clubhouse as like a veteran, but also someone who's done some things that they don't want younger guys to do. So keep up the great work. Love the show. LFGM.
LFGM, baby.
I'll let you go first. I have some things, and as a former player, I feel a certain way about some things. So I'll let you, from being a Mets fan, go first. Thank you, Joe from Maine, by the way.
First off, thank you, Joe, for a great question there. It's a tough situation. For those who don't know, Cano is playing baseball right now in the Winter Dominican League. He's hitting pretty well. We talked a little bit before about his power numbers a little bit going down. But outside of all of what Cano might bring to the table as a player, you do have to think about him as a personality in the clubhouse. We mentioned the 2 PEDs getting popped for. There's a lot of money tied into Cano, but there also is a factor in that there are guys in that clubhouse that do look to him as a leader, and he does have a connection with those guys. I think the first thing I should say here is that Cano is going to be a Met in 2022. I don't think there's any possibility that the Mets just eat the money and let him go or find a trade suitor. I don't think that's going to happen. So what you look for now is Cano possibly producing as a veteran bench guy, and there is a possibility for that. But I think that his weight in the clubhouse will probably guarantee his stay in 2022. And I think, if he can positively influence guys like Francisco Lindor, like Jeff McNeil and others, then I'm personally okay with it. I don't think that he should be, your starting second baseman batting 5th on opening day. But if he can be a solid bench bat and contribute in more layers than just that, I have no problem with him being here. He can play multiple positions. He's a proven veteran. He's got playoff experience. And, there's no way around him. So you might as well just hope for the best and hope that you can get the best out of him.
I'm torn. We talk about Robinson Cano, and he's got the second time getting popped for PEDs, missed all of last year. And he will be back. He'll be a bat off the bench, a left-handed bat that the team needs. They're already paying him $20 million. So they're going to see what they've got in him, and they should. But I'm torn. Like the way Mets fans feel about Cano, the way I feel about it, I've been torn with other teammates that have taken PEDs. I enjoyed playing with Bartolo, but Bartolo got popped too on the team that I was playing for in 2012 with the A's. And then, that was a big letdown. We lost him mid-season. We were making a run. It was emotional. And for a guy that played my whole career clean, to have a guy that I look up to cheat, it was tough. And then seeing him again in another uniform at an advanced age, it's always a question of like, are you cheating again? Or how do I feel about you? It's a mix of emotions for me, because I feel like maybe these guys are taking away from a guy working his way clean and taking a spot on the bench as a cheater from a guy who is trying to make the big leagues, a young guy. Maybe a Khalil Lee might be that bat off the bench, get his feet wet, whatever the case may be. So I am torn. I think personally, as a Mets fan, I would want him to address the media, address the fans, say something, make yourself available for one, at least one. Let's have it out. Let's have like a sit down talk about what it is that went through your head, what it was, confess, whatever the case may be. There's unaired laundry that needs to come out for me to be on board and root for you as a player, as a person. I think something needs to be said. I've heard nothing but nice things about him in the clubhouse, on how he can help people. It's the same way with Nelson Cruz. We talk about signing him. Nelson Cruz got popped, against playing with the Texas Rangers against my A's. And so but I've heard great things about who he is as a person, his hard work, what he does for the young Latin players coming up, and how he helps mold them into a better person. So I'm all for serving your time and coming back and rehabbing, but I think a second time is hard pill for me to swallow. and so I think he needs to come out and he's been a quiet player, a quiet pro for a long time. And I respect that. But after this second time, I think you need to make yourself available and accountable. And you'll be able to gain respect, or even if it's to tell people, I don't care, I'll be the villain, middle fingers to you, kind of do what you need to do, something, thumbs down. No. Like, I think he needs to either say, I'm open. He deserves to be held accountable. I think that as a pro, the second time, first time, benefit of the doubt, whatever the case may be, tainted supplements or tainted meat, whatever the case is. Second time, you're going to sit there and you're going to wear some tough questions. So, that being said, he is a left-handed bat that you need. And if he's effective as a player, I think he could push off the bench. I think he deserves to start off the bench and have some at-bats from there. And if he works his way, if somebody's struggling, if McNeil doesn't wind up being the player that we think he is, that I personally think he is, he could slot into that starting role of a VR style. Injury comes and he takes over. But I feel a few types of way about it, mixed emotions. So I'm going to stop rambling.
First of all, not rambling. I thought that was a pretty concise reply, especially coming from a player. The other thing I wanted to bring up is something that we said on the very first episode of Shea Station ever. I don't know if you remember, but it was right after the Mets got swept in Philadelphia. Things were bad, and Pete Alonso told the fans to just smile. You get to watch baseball. And our response to that was, do not treat New York fans like they're stupid. And I'm going to give the same advice to Robinson Cano. We all know what he did. We all know about his track record and all of the quiet personality he's taken on throughout his career. But you can't stay silent, especially after a second time. People want answers. People want clarification as to why your role will still be fulfilled on the Mets in 2022. And if he remains silent, then that's just a bad look on him. It's hard to get fans behind you outside of on-field performance in that case. Another thing I want to say is that you mentioned a great point about a youngster maybe not getting his chance with Cano in the way. And I definitely agree. You have Mark Vientos, who was tearing the cover off the ball in AAA, and this off-the-bench spot as a hitter likely would have been his if Cano wasn't tied up in money. The same thing goes for Jonathan Villar, who might want to come back to the Mets. Now his role is sort of taken up as the left-handed middle infield guy. So on one hand, Cano could fill in for a struggling guy and maybe produce in that way. But on the other hand, a spot is being taken up by a guy with a messy track record and not a lot of fond memories as a Met. So I think the most important thing to do is exactly what you said. Just address the media. Get out in front of it before rumors begin swirling again or people begin talking again about it, because it will come back into the media spotlight as soon as we start seeing him in spring training. It's just a fact of the matter.
If he doesn't address the media, if he doesn't allow himself to be held accountable to the fan base and be open for at least one press conference and be asked some hard questions and answer them honestly, it'll be hard. I won't be able to root for him. But if he holds himself accountable, I'll still have these, you cheated twice at least. I'll have this doubt in my head, but I could at least root for him because he plays on a team that I care about. You know what I mean? And he's had a wonderful career. He's probably a super nice guy. But if you don't stand and at your locker after a time when you give up a home run, this is a have it out. If the fans deserve you to take your public lashings, and if you're not willing to do that, it's your right. You're right as a player, whatever the case may be. If you don't want to do that, then I can't really root for you. Give yourself a chance. So it'll be interesting to see the approach that he takes. I don't know what he's going to do. It'll be interesting. I want to know, if Joe from Maine, how you feel personally, what you think you need to do, because I'm mixed in emotions, because this was my job for a long time. I remember getting optioned down when a guy I know was cheating. I found out later that he was cheating, got popped in that same time as Bartolo, cost me Super 2. You know what I mean? It cost me arbitration, and I got angry. This could be happening. So I'm curious as to what some fans, and that's why I want Cano to hold himself accountable. to stand in front of a press conference and allow himself to be given the questions that the fan base deserves. So,
yeah. And I think, as a former player, you're completely right to be impassioned by an issue like this. I think it sort of gets, it's not as taken seriously now because guys get popped less and like the steroid era of baseball has come and gone. And you really only think of it in like, those big brooding hitters that broke all the home run records. But at the end of the day, guys that do what Cano did are potentially messing up the lives of other players. And you have to think about that from a human aspect, not just an on-field product aspect. Of course, I'm going to be happy if Cano has a great year because that helps my favorite team. But at the end of the day, I don't know what could have been for other guys had Cano not done what he did. But that's something that we'll all never know. So I do hope that Cano can hold himself accountable and really come across as the mature veteran that he should be at this point, pushing 40 and still playing Major League Baseball. If you want to be a guy that people look up to and still be perceived as a role model after these mistakes, because one mistake doesn't have to define you, neither does two, because Cano did it twice, but still, you can hold yourself accountable and sort of make amends with something that you did. It's not impossible.
I agree. I mean, just don't pretend it didn't happen. Just please don't do that. That's the only thing. Don't not address it. So that's my approach. And that might be, I love that question because that gets to the root of fandom and what it means and being a player, a former player. There's so many things that go into that. As a former ambassador, a big rep for the union, I was always torn with, because the union has to defend all of its players, all of these changes that were made to the testing process, 99% of it were player pushed, more testing, deeper testing. We were all for, at least my generation of player. And I'm sure the guys wish that they had it back in the steroid era because there was a lot of guys that were given this option of like, these guys are all cheating. What do I do? You're put into that, I would love to say right now, wholeheartedly, that during the steroid era, I would love to say that I wouldn't have taken steroids because that's an easy way to say you wouldn't. But I don't know. I wasn't put in that opportunity. I know that I didn't take them as during my era, and there's less excuse now. And so, it's a full spectrum of how I feel. And there's a lot of factors, and I'm very empathetic as a human being in general. And so I could put myself in somebody's shoes from the Dominican Republic, who's, maybe changes an entire generation, multiple generations of a family. But again, you gotta hold yourself accountable and answer these questions. Otherwise you're an easy guy to root against.